AMRAP, or some sort of supersets. So triceps have a lot of different options for exercises that we can do, some with the bar, some with plates. So if you have plates or a bar, then you're welcome to do this with us. But we're going to walk through the technique for about 6 or 7 different exercises for triceps. Okay, so to start with, we're going to look at the bar exercises, which is going to be your tricep press, your tricep extensions, and your press pullover combination. So Tracy's going to have the bar. And just like we did in the chest exercises, we always want the bar to be on the end of the bench top before we sit down, so that way we keep a little bit more protection on the lower back. So, what?
Am I doing overhead presses or laying down?
Tricep. So you're going to do presses first.
I've been home too long.
Okay, so when we do the tricep press, the hand placement is going to be shoulder width apart. The bar is going to travel down towards the lower part of your ribs. So Tracy can go ahead and start taking the bar down to there. And what you'll notice is when she stops at the bottom, the bar is actually greater than a 90-degree angle at the elbow. If it's sitting right over the 90-degree of the elbow, then you're probably closer to the belly button. And we want to strive to get closer to the lower part of the rib cage. Okay? Elbows are still above the bench top, and the elbows are squeezed next to your sides. Now, if you're smaller in stature and if you're centered on the bench top, you will probably feel your elbows touch the top of the bench, and that's a good indication that you are at the height to stop. Okay? When you push the bar back up over the head, the bar is going to travel back to where it began. So if you'll notice, her hands are directly over her shoulders, which means that she's in that place where the weight of the bar is being held by the bone, not by the muscle. So it's in a place where she's getting a little bit of a recovery. So go ahead through that movement a couple more times, Tracy. As the movement starts to speed up, we can start to get a little bit of a swing. So that's where we have to be more mindful that we're stopping the bar directly over the shoulder each and every time. Okay? So think of it this way, that the bar is going to still stay basically over the elbow. Your movement is going to be from the shoulder to the elbow, not from the elbow to the hand. Okay? Now when we go into the second movement, which is the extensions, now we're going to lock the shoulder and the elbow, and we're going to move from the elbow to the hand. So we're going to form a 90-degree angle at the elbow with the bar going back towards the top of the head. Or if you were able to have a baseball cap on, you would be hitting basically the top of the cap, returning right back to where you began. What you'll notice is by doing the tricep extension, sometimes you'll hear these called skull crushers, is that this is really the only exercise that we do specifically in body pump that we're completely isolating the tricep. So the weight is going to feel a lot heavier a whole lot sooner, which is why, depending on the choreography of the exercises that you're doing, we might not use as heavy of a weight if we are doing just extensions versus the press. Okay, so once again, when she goes back into the extension, notice 90-degree at the elbow. Notice that nothing moved from the shoulder to the elbow. Then as she pushes back up, starts right back where she began. Okay? Now when we take those two moves and put them together, we form what's called a press pullover combination. It starts as a press, so you bend at the elbow and drop to 90 degrees, but then you're going to hinge from the shoulder, pull the bar up over the head as if you were going back towards an extension, and then coming all the way back to where you began, and then pushing back to the start of the movement. So a good visual for this would be if you were one of two things: putting a child in a car seat and pulling it down and locking it, or maybe you're riding a roller coaster and it's got the bar that comes over the head to protect you if you were going to go upside down. So once again, the 90 degrees happens at the elbow. It hinges from the shoulder over the head. Farther back you come, the more you're going to feel it, but we're aiming for 90 degrees, and then we return back to where we began. Okay? So those are the three main exercises that we will do with the bar on the bench top. The rest of the exercises that we're going to look at are going to be things where we use either body weight or plates. So once again, sitting up, now we're going to get plates. I'm going to use a larger plate because most everything that we do in triceps, we're going to only be doing one plate at a time. So unlike in biceps where we use the arms with 2 plates, we're either going to use both hands on one plate or we're going to use one hand on one plate. So these would start with our overhead extensions, which is basically the same thing as using the bar as we were laying on the bench top, but this time we're standing straight up. So now we're going to look at the plate staying up over the head as if it was a halo on top of your head. Plate is going to travel back towards the back of the head, looking for 90 degrees once again at the elbow, and then pulling the plate right back to where you began. Would you turn sideways for me, please, ma'am? So when the plate comes back, aiming for the nape or the back of the neck, once again still looking for the arm to be parallel with the ceiling, and then when she comes back to the top, she stops right where she began. So the plate is not going to shift forward, it's going to stop as if she's got a halo on. Okay? The other exercise that we would do with a plate, one plate would be the same look, but we would be sitting on the bench top. It's still an overhead extension, but it's from a seated position. So the thing to focus on with this is that we're going to bend it, we're going to cross the legs and sit a little further, closer to the front of the bench top. By doing this, the knees are going to slightly tip, which is going to allow us to shift our pelvis slightly forward, giving us a more upright position. It seems to be a little easier to maintain correct posture as we move through the overhead extension in a seated position, but the upper body still travels the exact same way. All right, so now we're going to look at a dip since we're already seated. This seems to be the one of the favorite exercises for people, and it's where we're using body weight. We can also use a plate in the lap if we choose to make the move a little bit more challenging. But the main things to focus on with the dip is number one, the hands are going to be on the bench top and they're going to always be fingers facing. Hey, one of the kitties has to come visit. This is Olivia. So when you're sitting on the bench top, your fingertips are going to be on the bench top facing out, okay? So the fingers lay on the bench top. They're going to be about shoulder width apart because the goal is to think that as we are moving through the tricep dip, that we're squeezing the elbows together behind the shoulder blades, so we're isolating the tricep, okay? So the other thing to be aware of is that the feet are always going to be outside of the knee. So it doesn't matter the angle at the knee as long as it is 90 degrees or greater. Keeping the foot flat on the floor or your heels may actually be on the floor and toes slightly lifted. It's not that big of a deal one way or the other. Okay, so that's the position. Now, we're going to turn the bench top to the side in order to do them. Otherwise, don't really see as proper the form. And what we'll find a lot of times with people is that the bench top might actually need an extra riser, because in order to get the full depth of the movement, to get maybe the elbows to 9 degrees, you might need a little bit more height, okay? So from the side view, we're going to be noticing posture straight up. Butt's going to slide off of the edge, and when the butt slides off the edge, it's still going to travel to where your back is basically touching the bench top as you lower down. Okay, so as Tracy executes this, notice that the elbows are dropping, or the elbows are bending to 90 degrees, but the butt is still staying above the ground. Notice that the feet are outside of 90 degrees, so that way it's a safe on the joints and allows you to keep the balance necessary as you move through it. All right? So the great option for this is always for the butt to sit on the bench top. Your hands are going to travel a little bit further back, and it's going to feel a little bit more like you're working into your core versus your triceps, but our goal is to still keep the focus into the triceps. So you almost have to let your body weight fall into your arms, so then your hands will push your body weight back up, giving the focus into the tricep instead of into the core. Okay? And that's your tricep dip. All right, so from the tricep dip, we're going to come to the floor. Do you need a mat?
For what?
Or do you want to just come onto the carpet for the kickbacks or kickback rows? Okay. All right, I'm going to come to this side now.
I'm going to do one bench top.
I'm gonna go this side and turn it this way so that way if you need to be on the carpet for your knees, you can be. All right, so from here, y'all see there's baby Coleman's swing. So he's not in the video right now. Maybe he'll make an appearance before we get done. All right, so in this, we're gonna look at a kickback to begin with. So with a kickback, you have lots of options of what you can do with your hands, okay? You can either be in the position that Tracy's in right here. You could also be to where you're more in a, with your hand on the floor and your feet and your knees on the floor. Or you could have one knee bent and one knee down like this. If you're in the position she's in now, notice that the leg that's down is the hand that's holding the plate, okay? So let's look at these from different, we'll look at it this way to begin with. So on the kickback here, we're gonna bring the arm up to where we're trying to get the elbow parallel with the shoulder. The plate is at the hip, and that's where the plate is gonna start and is going to end. So we execute back, we pull back down. Now notice the shoulders are staying square to the floor, plate pushes back, and comes back here, okay? So just keep it at the, we're not gonna row, just gonna kick back. Okay, so keeping it there. Now notice the elbow is gonna stay locked. Just go straight back, pull back down. All right, so notice that the 90 degrees stops the whole time, okay? Now we can add on a row, which is what Tracy was already showing you to where we're gonna bring the plate straight back down in between, lifting up, pressing straight back, pulling down, and in between. So these would be called kickback rows where we actually perform a row in between. The things to remember is that the plate is not going to come forward like you're doing a bicep curl, because then we just get a swing and momentum is going to keep the plate moving when we really want it to just be more about the isolation of the tricep. Okay? Now if you're back on the plate with your knees down and a hand on the bench top like Tracy was to begin with, and we do the kickbacks, seems to be a little bit easier to maintain posture, but what we want to make sure of when we're doing this is that the shoulders stay square to the floor. What we'll see happen a lot of times is as people do this, they'll open here like they're looking in the mirror, and it's okay to turn to look in the mirror, but we want the shoulder to stay down the whole time, so that way you're keeping it isolated in the arm in the back, okay? Let's see. Hey, the only other one that we need to add on to here is going to be tricep push-ups. So tricep push-ups we can do on the bench top or on the floor. For most people, it seems to be a little bit easier to do the tricep push-ups if we do them from the short end of the bench top. Because if we use the short end of the bench top, then we can naturally curve our hands in around the bench top. Yeah. So Tracy's going to turn the bench top back again to show this. Y'all wouldn't believe the way my house has been torn apart between a baby and doing exercises all in this room. My furniture will never know where to go again. I have a Roomba, and every time I run it, it never knows where to go because the furniture is always in a different place. All right, so once again, we're doing the tricep push-ups, we're going to take our hands and cup them around the ends of the, cup them around the end of the bench top. And by cupping them around the end of the bench top, it's going to automatically pull your shoulders and your elbows back into the proper position. So then when you drop into your push-up, your elbows are coming close to your sides, okay? Now, there's no rule that says that you can't go all the way from your nose to the floor or your nose to the bench top, but we're ideally looking for a 90-degree angle at the elbows. So you can see that that happens about when Tracy gets with her elbow at her side. Now, just like in anything else we do in exercise, the longer the lever, the harder it is. So the further that the knees come away from the bench top, the more challenging the push-up is going to be. And if you're feeling it and you want to go for it, then you can go onto your toes. But the toes option is just that, it's always an option. We're still striving to hold on to proper form more than aiming for a higher option, okay? So those are all the different types of exercises we can do in triceps. Now we're going to add biceps onto it. All right, so when we do biceps, We have options with biceps that are bar and plate driven, okay? When we're using the bar in biceps, the weight load is typically going to be around the same as your warm-up weight. Now we can always do more in biceps than this, but because of the number of repetitions that we typically do in one of our workouts, we're going to aim for a little less weight so we don't lose our form because of fatigue setting in, right? So just like anything else, you bend your knees to pick up the bar. Your body is going to be in that set position that we talked about in the first video, and that's just going to help keep you in your correct neutral spine. So feet are under hips, knees are soft, core is braced, chest is lifted, shoulders rolled up, back, and down. And then where your hands fall on the bar is where they're going to land. And what I mean by that is for some people, are going to be double jointed in their elbows. And when they're double jointed in their elbows, then that makes it more challenging to pull the hands in closer. So it's just a matter of when you turn your arms over, wherever your hands fall is where they are. Okay? Now, here are the keys for a bicep. Turn sideways. When we're gonna do the execution of a bicep curl, it's all gonna come back to the elbow again. Elbow stays under the shoulder as the bar travels up. Okay, so go ahead and execute it for me. Okay, so when she gets close to the top, we're gonna stop to where the bar is about a fist distance from the top. So if you could take a fist and set it in between your arm and the top, that's where it would need to be. This is gonna keep the muscle loaded at the top of the movement, or the top of the range, and then when we're going to get to the bottom, we're going to completely release it so your recovery comes at the bottom. Now this is 100% different from what you would do in a weight room setting. In a weight room setting, you would bring it all the way to the top, almost to your collarbone, to where once again the bone would be holding the bar, and you would get your recovery there, and you would keep it away from the leg at the bottom to stay loaded. But we're going to reverse that in body pump. So this is, even though it's the easiest exercise that we can do, it's where people tend to struggle the most because of the difference in the weight room versus in the group fitness room. Okay, so if we can keep the elbow directly under the shoulder through the entire movement, then we're not going to take the bar too high on the chest. If the elbow creeps forward, go ahead Tracy, if the elbow creeps forward, then the bar is going to come up to the collarbone. So would you turn forward now? Okay, I'm going to pick this up so you can lift it up and you can see better. Okay, so see how the bar is up to her collarbone? So by doing this, if I turn sideways and you can see where her elbow is. But now if she takes her elbow and she drops her elbow back to where it should be here, then it automatically fixes it to where it should be here. So again, it's just kind of like one of those things with anatomically how we're built. If we keep the elbow where it should be, then the bar is going to travel where it should travel. So elbow under shoulders, bar releases at the bottom, 1 fist distance from the top, and that gets the bicep correct. Okay, so then we have another move sometimes we do called the bicep row. When doing the bicep row, we're going to look at it the same way as we did the dead row in the back track, and that we're going to hinge from the hips and go to the knees. The only difference with this is when we bring the bar up, the bar is going to come to the upper part of the ribs. So now it gives the impression that we're bringing the forearm to the bicep. So we're taking the back out of the workout and keeping it in the bicep. And then stand right back up to it again. Down, pull, down, stand. This also gives the bicep a slight recovery, which is a great way to mix it in if you're going to be doing a lot of exercises in the bicep at one time. All right, the last thing we're going to look at is the plates with biceps. Now, the difference with the plates is that now we're going to isolate each arm individually. And when we isolate each arm individually, the first thing that you're going to notice is which arm is weaker. And typically, it's going to be your less dominant arm, okay, or your non-dominant hand. So, same thing starts the workout, in that we're going to make sure the elbow stays under the shoulder through the entire rotation. Now, we can keep the plates where the palm is facing the side. So palm is facing side, and we can lift them that way, and we're going to call that a hammer curl. That's going to focus on one head of the bicep. Bicep means 2 muscles, That's going to focus on one, but once again, the elbow still stays under the shoulder. Plate is going to travel towards the shoulders. And if your plates are turned like this, your plate is going to naturally stop before the bone is holding it, because the plate is going to be between your hand and your shoulder, okay? The next one is where we're going to rotate the plate 90 degrees as we move through it. So at 90 degrees, the plate turns. So this allows us to focus on both heads of the bicep as we move through the movement. So we have the hammer curl until we get to 90 degrees. And then we rotate it to hit the other head of the bicep as we get to the top of the plate. Okay? Sometimes when we do the movements with the plates, it's a little bit more challenging to keep the elbows underneath because the momentum wants to help make you swing the plate a little bit. Lastly is when we have pulses, and we have what we call mid-range pulses. Mid-range means we're going to be somewhere around the 90-degree mark, 90 degree at the elbow, and then we're going to use the belly button kind of as our target. So 90 degrees at the elbow, and then when we're going to go mid-range, we're going to typically go an inch above and an inch below that 90 degree. And it's just a small pulse. When we pulse like this and we do it for a long time, we create what's called occlusion training. Occlusion training is where we basically are going to lock the blood into the muscle, which creates fatigue faster on that muscle that is contracted. Okay? So these are the different exercises that you can do.
Can you show the row with the plates?
Yes.
It's confusing sometimes.
Yes. So these are the different exercises. So Tracy just said, let's show the bicep row with the plates. It's going to be the same thing, but we're going to keep them, and we rotate them as they pull up, but still bringing the plate to the upper ribs, the same place the bar would have come. Still bringing the forearm towards the bicep as we move through the full range of the bicep row. All right, guys, so there's your exercises for triceps, biceps. So now we've done squats, chest, back, triceps and biceps. Next one we'll add in is lunges and shoulders, and we'll have that to you sometime within the next day or two. So hope you have a great day of your beautiful day outside. It's Good Friday here, so if it's not Good Friday for you, then enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye.